Imagine waking up drowsy and confused, locked inside a small maintenance garage, surrounded by half a dozen of your neighbors and friends, only to realize there's no way out. You'll slowly die in anguish and despair, leaving a timeless coffin only to be opened by explorers years later. Now imagine what you had to do to push someone to punish you like this, how you must have betrayed them. I'm Andy Borkowski, and this is the hidden story of the revenge of Boris the Bow Hunter. Our story begins in Seattle, in the suburb community of Hillcrest. Ellie is hot on the trail of Tommy, who had navigated through the area a few days earlier. Immediately, you notice the presence of the WLF. Propaganda and flyers litter this small town, warning citizens of the new way of living. They were originally under Fedra rule until the WLF ran them out of there. In the basement of a clothing store, Ellie finds a small living space along with a drawing which reads, "Happy birthday, Dad, the best clicker killer in the QZ." In that same room, we find a trophy, first place for archery, dedicated to Boris Legasov. This Boris is seen as a loving father, possibly even the leader of this community during the initial years of the outbreak, using his bow to protect those in need. Now, with the town under WLF control, things are changing. An unfortunate sight as propaganda of the new regime has been defaced. "Fuck the WLF" with a dead wolf spray painted on the front of it. Everything we know about this group of killers suggests they wouldn't take this lightly, whoever did it. Not far from this graffiti, we see an artifact from Yolanda to her old friend Boris.
Boris. Wolves broke into Fedra HQ and found the enlisted rosters. I've heard they're starting to knock on doors looking for soldiers. I'm not going to be executed in my own town. After things calm down, I'll try to return with a new name. I couldn't find Alfie. I put his food on your back porch. In case I don't come back, give him lots of scratches for me. He always loved you and Sophia. Yolanda.
She trusted Boris with this possibly lethal information. As Yolanda finds her escape, she hopes that Boris and his daughter Sophia would take care of her friendly feline Alfie. Even at this point in the chaos, community was still intact, and Boris was still seen as a person to confide in. But things are different now, with the wolves in charge. Another artifact in this sleepy town reveals an important character in this story, Yuli.
Boris. What did we get ourselves into? The wolves were supposed to make things better. The military holded all the resources, controlled what we said, told us what job to do, and so far, the wolves are doing the exact same thing. And now they're talking about moving everyone to the stadium? What? I grew up in this town. I survived the outbreak in this town. I'm not moving to some refugee camp where some asshole tells me when I can or can't wipe my own ass. This is my home. We need a plan. We can't settle for the same thing. Yuli.
The community of Hillcrest wants to be self-governed. They don't want another Fedra, and in the past, when things were tough, they looked to Boris for leadership and strength. Yuli once again is hoping that Boris can solve Hillcrest's problems. Ellie, at this point, makes contact with WLF forces and brutally eviscerates soldiers and dogs alike in the area, leading us further into this forgotten suburb. Inside of a bike shop, we find out who defaced that fascist propaganda and what it now means for the town.
Boris, I'm so sorry. What those wolves did to Sophia was horrifying. I can't help but feel somewhat responsible. I've been getting the town so riled up about standing our ground against the wolves. When she started spraying paint over their rules, I didn't discourage her hard enough. I kept it from you. I thought she'd stop. I know you want to retaliate against the wolves. Believe me, I feel the same way. But we can't. Not now. We've got to be smart. Let things cool down. People will be looking to you for how you handle this. You were a leader here after the outbreak. I need you to be a leader again. Let's not let everything we fought for be in vain. Yuli.
The raw cowardice of Yuli to beg Boris to rid Hillcrest of the WLF occupation one day and then demand Boris stays his hand the next is unheard of. We don't even know what happened to Sophia, the sweet girl who likes drawing and taking care of cats, but we do know that the wolves have teeth. Once again, Ellie travels through this eerily quiet town, looking through boxes until eventually she finds something that helps us complete the picture. A note found inside a local bar from the Bradmans to our friend Yuli.
Yuli, you know our hearts will always be with Hillcrest, but after Sophia's shooting, we've decided to head to the stadium with the others. We've got our own kids to think about. The Bradmans. P.S. Saw Boris a couple hours ago. We tried talking to him, but he seemed off. Please talk to him. I hope you guys will join us.
We now know for certain what we all feared to be true. Sophia died for one act of defiance. Now, instead of coming together to fight against these oppressors, the Bradmans and others in the Hillcrest community decide to join the men and women who killed this child. Boris was more and more alone than ever before. As Ellie visits a shambler-infested basement, it leads us to a WLF soldier, deformed and dead, possibly killed by a trained marksman. Outside of the window, another form of defiance, this time more deliberate, spray-painted on one of these Humvees, "Come get me, assholes." Boris's message to the WLF. Things at this point likely couldn't have gone worse for Boris, yet hidden in a veterinary office, we learn of the true conspiracy that was plotted against this former leader.
Yuli, it was Boris. I saw him shoot the WLF patrol against their own van. Jesus, I get it. They killed his daughter, but he just signed our death warrant. We have one chance out of this. We turn him in. I know he's our friend, but if those wolves shoot that girl over some graffiti, think of what they'll do to all of us if they think we're harboring the killer of 3 of their own. Let's meet at the usual place after curfew. X.
It wasn't enough that this community looked to Boris to help them face the infected. It wasn't enough that they wanted him to help smooth things over with the WLF. But now, the scared sheep are looking to feed their brother Boris directly to these wolves. Boris, though, has other plans. Dead soldiers with arrows through their chest are found along the walkway to Boris's home. Outside, we see a playset, possibly Sophia's from a forgotten time. Inside, a note. Boris's confession.
Yolanda, I'm sorry. I won't be able to keep taking care of Alfie. You were right about the wolves. They turned out to be worse than the military. What I didn't expect is that our own neighborhood would turn on each other. They all saw what the wolves did to my poor Sophia. And what did everyone want to do in return? Appease? I deserved wolf blood. They should have joined me. Instead, they conspired against me. So I got them first. I poisoned them, one by one. Not enough to kill them, just put them to sleep. Then I dragged them into a spored garage. Yuli woke up. We wrestled. I shut him in there. But he bit me. Those traitors are going to watch each other turn. They will suffer. I hope they think of me when they lose their minds. I'm already starting to lose mine. It won't be long now. I hope you find some peace somewhere outside of this shitty town. I hope you don't come back to see all of this. If you do, I'm sorry. Boris.
He wasn't able to get wolf blood, but he did get revenge. Ellie investigates this tombstone to Hillcrest and finds the community very much alive, but now infected monsters, trapped for years, losing their minds and bodies, all because they betrayed a man who gave them so much. As for Boris, he too lost his mind, and in a final confrontation, Ellie extinguished his everlasting rage, putting his stalker body now to rest. But not without taking something in return. That bow, the bow he used to exact vengeance on those that hurt him, will now exact Ellie's vengeance on those that hurt her, and finally spill wolf blood. Thank you all for listening to the story of Boris the Bow Hunter. I really like this one. I think there's a lot of different characters and tones to dive into. Big fan of this, and a lot of these hidden stories that many of you have really, really enjoyed. Coming up next, I have a ton of Ghost of Tsushima work that needs to be done, but I will be doing, in the not too distant future, a full look at the complete history of the Prophet, who she is, who she was, and maybe who her Seraphites are, and then also Isaac's rise to power in the WLF. So those will be coming, but please, if you enjoyed this, keep watching. I will be back soon. I'm Andy Borkowski for VGS.